regarded as the first communist revolution in the world. So the country, for the first time, that introduced communism as a form of government, that was Russia. So Russian Revolution is also called as the communist revolution. All right. Now, when we talk about Russian Revolution, there are different phases in this particular revolution. So in the beginning, Russia was a monarchy. There were kings. There was a proper monarchy in Russia. Slowly and gradually, monarchy made a way to a democratic form of government, and then democratic form of government made a way to communism. So these are the different phases of the Russian Revolution. Initially, Russia was a monarchy, then it made a way to democracy. Since democratic experiments failed in Russia, then Russia headed towards communism, and it became the first communist country of this world. Okay, so that is the most important significance of this Russian Revolution, okay, which we are going to cover in today's session. Okay, so as I told you that Russia was the first communist country in the world, and this philosophy of communism was introduced by a great philosopher, Karl Marx. So this entire revolution, the Russian Revolution, the communist revolution, is based on the philosophy of communism, and this philosophy of communism was given by a great philosopher, Karl Marx. Fine. Now, number of causes were responsible for this revolution. You can say that all the causes rather played an important role for marking this Russian Revolution. Political causes were important, social causes as well as economic causes played a very important role in creating a revolution in Russia. Okay. Now, when we talk about Karl Marx, okay, now who was Karl Marx? Now, since I introduced that this entire revolution was based on the philosophy of Karl Marx, so we need to know a little bit about him. So he was a German communist thinker. See, a German communist thinker, and a revolution was in a Russia. It was not in a Germany. Okay. Now he is known for his two famous books on communism. First is Das Kapital, and second is Communist Manifesto. So these are the basic guidelines for this communist revolution. One more thesis which was given by Karl Marx along with his friend Friedrich Engels was Manifesto of Communism. So Manifesto of Communism, it was given by him in 1848. So these are the important books which were written by Karl Marx, and in these books he propounded his communist philosophy. Now it is said that Karl Marx, he did a thorough analysis, a scientific analysis of human social development. And on the basis of that scientific analysis, he gave this communist philosophy. Okay, so let us try to understand what was his analysis of the society. So according to Karl Marx, in any society, okay, there are two types of groups. One is haves, and second one haves not. Now, who are haves? Okay, so haves, from the word itself we come to know they have something. So what do they have? They have the resources. Okay, they controlled the resources, and they were known as the owning class, one who owned the resources of production. Okay, so these are called as the owning class, and these were the capitalists, the landlords. So these were the ones who owned the means of production, who were called as haves. On the second hand, according to Karl Marx, there was yet another group in the society, and that was haves not. So from the word we come to know that haves not, they did not own the means of production. And who were they? So they were obviously the workers, the farmers, the laborers who were working for the haves. Okay, so according to Karl Marx, at any time a society contains these two groups, and slowly and gradually as the system progresses, have starts exploiting haves not, and this culminates into a class struggle. Okay, so according to him, so the class struggle begins, and this class struggle was between haves and haves not. And if you see the Russian Revolution, even this revolution saw a similar struggle between haves and haves not. Now, who were these haves in the Russian society? So when I say haves of the Russian society, these were the rich supporters of Tsar. Now, when I say Tsar, Tsar means the title given to the Russian king. We had seen in World War I, there was a title given to a German king that was Kaiser. So on the similar lines, a title was given to a Russian king that was Tsar. So Tsar and his rich supporters, they were called as haves. On the other hand, the common people, the workers and farmers, they were called as the haves not. So basically, the Russian Revolution was based on this conflict, the conflict between haves and haves not, as propounded by Karl Marx in his communist philosophy. Okay. So according to Karl Marx, the social class which holds the means of production, they will start exploiting the poor people. That will result into an intensified conflict that will result into a class struggle. Slowly and gradually, this struggle will intensify. And then Karl Marx gave an appeal. He appealed to the workers and laborers that you broke the chains and organize a revolution, and that revolution will ultimately bring about a social change in the society. Okay, so he was appealing to the workers and laborers to come together, to raise the voice and take a call for the revolution. Now, when he was saying that, you should, like, when a revolution will be brought, then you shift towards a communism. So let us try to understand how communism can free the society from exploitation and from inequalities. Okay, so Karl Marx used to say that adopt the path of communism that will lead to the end of your exploitation, of your inequalities. So let us try to understand what was this communism. Okay, so can anyone tell me, do you have any idea about communism? Any basic idea what happens in communism?
The state controls everything.
All right, yeah, state controls everything. Very good, yeah. So basically, when I talk about communism, it means that it is that system in which state controls the resources. All right. So here, communism, when we talk about it, says that it is based on the common ownership of the property. See, in private, in capitalism, like I have my own house. Okay, depending upon my financial condition, I will enroll my kids into good schools and all. So everything depends upon my financial condition, my monetary capacity. On the other hand, in communism, there is no concept of private property. I do not own anything. Everything is owned by the state in the name of the people. Okay, slowly and gradually we'll come to know as we'll proceed what changes were brought by communism in Russia. At that time, it will be more clear. Okay, and state will only distribute the sources, the resources. Okay, like for example, schools. So all the schools will be run by the government. All the hospitals will be run by the government. All the factories will be established by the government. All the land will be the land of the government. What will be our role? We have to just go, we have to work in the factories. We have to go, those who are farmers, they will go and they will cultivate the land. So everything is owned by the government, and then government will distribute. So whenever the crops will mature, the government will distribute the food grains depending upon the size of your family. Okay, schools, आपको private school का concept ही नहीं है. You have to go into the government schools only, government colleges only. So everything is owned by the government. So basically, even the houses. Okay, so now my house will depend upon my financial condition. But in communism, government will create same set of houses for everyone. And depending upon the size of the family, and the criteria was kept, and the houses will be allocated to you. वो भी lottery basis पे, usually the houses were allocated. So in this way, communism, it tries to establish a society which is classless, because there is no upper class, lower class. Everyone will be staying in same sort of houses created by the state. Everyone will be going into same set of schools, same set of hospitals. So basically, there won't be any special treatment to anyone. So communism, it tries to create a society which is classless, which is casteless, which is religionless. Okay, so that was the basic intention of Karl Marx when he propounded his communism theory. Is it clear? So in this way, he was appealing to the workers that if you adopt capitalism, if there is a capitalism, definitely there will be a system of haves and haves not, where haves will exploit haves not. So the only system where you will find that there is no exploitation, there is no inequality, that system is communism. So that was propounded by Karl Marx. Is it clear? Any doubt with respect to the communism?
No, ma'am.
Is it clear what is the communist system? All right, fine. So now let us try to understand the exact course of the revolution. Okay, how did the revolution proceeded? What were the different causes of the Russian Revolution? Fine. Now, during the 19th century, almost all the conditions, when I talk about the social conditions, political conditions, economic conditions of Russia went on declining. Okay, so Russia was undergoing a series of deterioration, decline in terms of all the major factors, social factors, political factors, economic factors, which we are going to understand in detail. Okay, so first of all, let us have a look towards the social conditions in Russia. Okay, so in the beginning of the 20th century, the social condition of Russia, the society, was extremely unequal. So in Russia, there existed a feudal system. So feudal system, it means that at the upper hand, there will be obviously the king, the czar, then there will be the nobility, the nobles, then there were the landlords, and at the end, there were workers and peasants, those who used to work for these upper classes. Okay, so that was a feudal setup that existed in Russia. Apart from that, there was even a bonded labor. So bonded labor, that is, if you are like, if you have taken a loan from any landlord and all, you are not able to repay that loan, then you are a bonded labor of that landlord. That is, to repay the loan, you have to work for years and years. And obviously you are illiterate and all. Like, for example, a peasant is there, he is illiterate and all, so he does not know how much loan he has taken, at what interest rate he has taken. So that landlord will tell him that yes, you work for years and years, still he will say that the loan is not yet repaid. So person becomes bonded to that particular landlord. Okay, so all this system existed in Russia during that time. So this feudalism and this serfdom, that is a bonded labor, okay, it made the life of the common people extremely miserable. Okay, so that was the first issue. Second was the political situation in Russia. So under the political situation, we are going to discuss different factors. First is the despotic rule in Russia. Second one, we are going to discuss about the Rasputin factor. Third one, we are going to discuss about the nihilist, the role of different authors and the role of different thinkers. Okay, so when I talk about the despotic rule in Russia, so as I told you, Russia was initially a monarchy. Okay, so Russia was ruled by czars. Czar was the title of the Russian king, and czar belonged to a Romanov dynasty. So there was a Romanov dynasty, and this dynasty almost ruled Russia for 3 centuries. So when I say 3 centuries, approximately, it means 300 years. So for 300 years, Romanov dynasty ruled over Russia. And during the 19th and the initial 20th century, the Tsar was Nicholas II. Okay, so Nicholas II was the Tsar of Russia during the time of Russian Revolution. Now, when I talk about the Nicholas, okay, now if you see, yes, he was an ambitious person, but his only ambition was the imperial expansion of Russia. That is, he just wanted to expand Russia size-wise. That is, conquer as many territories as possible. And literally, Russia was one of the largest countries in the world during that time. So literally, he made Russia like a big elephant size was attributed to Russia during this time. So he was an ambitious person. He mainly focused on imperialism. But apart from that, like when it came to doing something for the ruler, for the people, that was not approved by him. Okay, so czars were essentially despotic rulers. Okay, though they were interested in expanding the Russia, imperialism wise, they were doing it. But once a particular territory is included in your country, the people suffered, extremely suffered, because nothing was done to improve their condition. So size-wise, Russia was increasing as a country, but if you see internal development, there was no internal development. Apart from that, these czars, they did not approve any liberal or progressive ideology. So on that front also, Russia remained backward. Okay, yes, and Russia became, as I told you, strong empire just because of the imperial strategy, but they ensured that the hopes and aspirations of the people were trampled because no attention was paid to the internal development of the country. So country was expanding without any development with respect to the internal conditions of the country, and that slowly and gradually resulted into resentment amongst the people against the Tsar. Okay, so that was a despotic rule in Russia. The second important factor that played a very important role was the Rasputin factor. Now, who was this Rasputin? It is said that Rasputin was a Serbian monk. Okay, so he was a Serbian monk. It is said that when he was small, he had some he used to do some miraculous things. Okay, so and then he migrated to Russia, and there he was he was a farmer. Then he pretended that I am a priest, and then he claimed to have miraculous healing powers. Okay, now slowly and gradually he became a close advisor of Tsarina Alexandra. Now, how he became the close advisor of the queen, that is an important thing. Okay, now Tsar Nicholas II and Tsarina Alexandra, they had 4 daughters, and after the 4 daughters, एक ही बेटा था, that was Prince Alexei. Okay, so 4 daughters के बाद एक बेटा था. You can understand how precious that son would be, because then he would be the future monarch of Russia. But unfortunately, Prince Alexei, he suffered from hemophilia. Now, hemophilia, it's a genetic disorder that impairs body's ability to control blood clotting. That is, if there is a cut, if there is a cut, then there is a sanguinization of a blood. Sanguinization means excessive blood loss happens, and sometimes if it repeats, it can even lead to the death of a person. Okay, so you guys like must have noticed that whenever there is a cut, okay, after a few seconds, okay, the blood stops, it clots. But in case of hemophilia, that is not the situation. There is an excessive loss of blood, and if it repeats 2 to 3 times, then it may lead to even death of that person. So Prince Alexei, he was suffering from this hemophilia, all right, and as a result, like he could not play and all, because if there is a little bit of anything, any accident, anything, then that used to like that could have been turned into a disaster. At that time, Rasputin enters Russia, and Rasputin somehow influenced Tsarina Alexandria that yes, he could heal he could heal Prince Alexei, and it is said that few times he was able to do so, and as a result he could gain the confidence of Tsarina Alexandra, and he tried to become a dominant entity in the Russian court. Okay, now when World War I started by 1914, okay, as soon as World War I started in 1914, we had seen already in World War I that Russia had taken a side of Serbia. And after taking a side of Serbia, Russia had launched an attack on Austria-Hungary. And after Austria-Hungary, Russia had launched an attack on Germany. Okay, so Tsar was a very ambitious person, and he wanted to expand his kingdom. And as a result, he dragged Russia into World War I. Now, during this period, when Tsar was busy in World War I, during this time period, Rasputin, he tried to control Russian court. Okay, now he started influencing Tsarina during this entire period, and all the important appointments to the court were now done according to the approval of Rasputin. Okay, so now it is also said that people started doubting. There was a suspicion that Tsar, the impression was that Tsar was fighting, okay, battle World War I, and here Tsarina and Rasputin, something was going on between them. Okay, it is said that they were entangled into a love affair. Okay, and in World War I, if you remember, Russia was the country that lost maximum soldiers in World War I. Soldiers to gaye plus civilians. So the country that suffered a lot in terms of civilians and in terms of the soldiers, that was Russia. So now there was an anger amongst the citizens, among the subjects, that king is fighting, all right. On the king was the one who dragged Russia into this into World War I. On the top of that, this queen, she's enjoying with Rasputin, and so many people died in World War I. So there was a basic anger against Rasputin, and that anger now could not be tolerated by the courtiers, and they devised a plan to murder Rasputin. But Rasputin mar bhi nahi raha tha. Like literally 2-3 times an attempt was made to kill Rasputin. First attempt made, skipped, he could not die. Second attempt made, in the cupcakes, poison was added, and those cupcakes were given to him. That guy even survived that poison ka. He even survived that attack also. So now people were frustrated, why this person is not dying. So ultimately people devised a plan, shot him, and उसको मारने के बाद भी उनको तसल्ली नहीं मिल रही थी कि whether he really died or not. So ultimately they decided कि let us drown him in a river. So river तुरा में उसको फेंक दिया गया, and उसके बाद after 24 hours he was taken out of the river Tura, and then literally was checked कि अभी तो ये मरा है क्या नहीं. So even that was the fear of Rasputin, the way he had controlled the entire Russian court, the way he had influenced Tsarina, and the way like the attempts were made on his life, still he was not dying. So all this also added towards the anger of the people against the political system in Russia. Okay, so this was about the Rasputin factor. The next important thing is the role of young generation, the role of authors and thinkers, and the role of Russian nihilists. Okay, so now the young generation of Russia who were studying in universities, they realized that all this exploitation should come to an end. Okay, apart from that, the authors and thinkers like Alexander Pushkin, Dostoevsky, Leo Tolstoy, Maxim Gorky, all these people, they supported liberal ideas, humanism in their writings. So even they had a good amount of influence on the Russians. Then we had nihilists. Okay, now nihilists are the revolutionaries. See, in India, if you see, if you will study Indian freedom struggle, so you will see that the Indian revolutionaries, they also took inspiration from the nihilists. So nihilists are those people, those who believe in creating a terror, those who believe in taking in revolutionary ideas. Okay, so these were the people who wanted total freedom from the government, from the religion, from the marriage, from the ethics, and they wanted a society that should be based on intellectualism. So all these factors also played a very important role in motivating the subjects of Russia. Okay, so these were all the political factors like we had seen. The first one, the social factor, we have completed, that is the feudalism and the bonded slavery that made the society, the condition of the common people, miserable. Then we saw about the Tsar, the policy of the Tsar, that is, they were almost all of them were the despotic kings. They did not promoted liberal ideas, and they were busy in expanding the Russian empire, Russian country, but nothing was done to take care of the internal development of Russia. Apart from that, we saw the Rasputin factor, a Serbian monk, how he played a dominant role in Russian court. Okay, now we'll talk about the economic conditions in Russia. Now, the two basic building blocks of Russian economy were agriculture and the industries. Okay, so we can say that the majority of the common people were either farmers or they were the workers. Okay, so mainly agriculture was the backbone of Russia, but the technology that was used that hampered agriculture, because we have seen that the Tsar was not interested in introducing. Even industrial revolution took place in England for the first time. It was not immediately introduced in Russia. From England, it spread to many countries of Europe. But the last country, the last European country to accept industrial revolution was Russia. So, technologically, Russia was backward. And as a result, the old and improper facilities, it affected the agriculture. Now, slowly and gradually, Russia as an empire was increasing, population was increasing, there was a demand, there was a scarcity of food, and there was a demand for more and more land. Okay, but nothing was taken into consideration by Tsar, and especially during World War I, there was inflation also. Okay, the price of the commodities went on increasing, but nothing was done by the Russian entities, by the Tsar. Okay, so that was one reason. Next was the workers. So slowly and gradually, industrial development, that is, I told you that is Russia was the last country to adopt industrial revolution. So slowly and gradually, industrial development began in Russia, but it would not satisfy the needs of the common people. The reason was that industries were in the hand of the capitalists, and these capitalists, they started exploiting the workers. So the workers were troubled by the unfavorable working conditions, like they had to work for longer working hours, and they were paid really low. So scanty wages, longer working hours, and insecure and inferior living conditions. So all these conditions prevailed in Russia. The technology which they used, that was not the advanced technology. So it was very difficult to give a quality production. And as a result, overall, the economic condition of Russia began to decline. Now, when workers used to demand for any reforms, So Tsar's governance ka always the approach was no to any new invention or any reformative demands. Okay, so this made people to organize themselves into unions. So many trade unions were born during this period, and later on various organizations united under one political banner, and a very big Russian Social Democratic Labour Party was born in 1898. Okay, so this was a merger of many different worker organizations. This is important. The Russian Social Democratic Labour Party formed in 1898. Now, this party later on got divided into two groups. So one group were called as Mensheviks. These were moderates in their approach, the ones who supported democratic setup. So Mensheviks were there, and they were headed by Kerensky. And on the other hand, we have Bolsheviks, and Bolsheviks were headed by a famous leader, Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. Okay, so we'll call him as Lenin. So Lenin was a famous Bolshevik leader. Now this person, Lenin, now he started raising his voice against the Tsar. He started openly criticizing the Tsar's rule, and as a result, he was forced to leave the country. And we had seen during World War I that he was forced to stay in exile in Switzerland. So he went to Switzerland and he was staying over there. All right. So these were the economic conditions. Any doubt till here?
No, ma'am.
मैम कार्ल मार्क्स की डेथ कब हुई थी?
कार्ल मार्क्स की डेथ वो तो बहुत पहले हो गई थी, बिफोर दिस रेवोल्यूशन. He was in 16, I don't know exactly which year did he die, but yes, definitely he died much before this revolution.
Okay,
Yeah, he was there in the 17th century. Yeah, so around around that period, like 17th or 18th century was there. So he did not survive to see this revolution. Okay, he died way before the Russian Revolution.
right? Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Now to talk about the events. Okay, so the first event. So these were the causes which we covered: the social causes, political causes, the economic causes.
Actually, I have a doubt, if you don't mind.
Yes, sure.
What's the role of Karl Marx in this Russian Revolution, ma'am? Sorry, I joined a session late.
All right. Yeah, the role of Karl Marx. Okay, we'll come to it. Actually, the Russian Revolution is the first communist revolution in the entire world. All right, and the communist philosophy is the philosophy of Karl Marx. So this entire revolution, like whatever, we'll come to it. Like at the end, we'll talk about how communism came in Russia, and Russia became the first country in the entire world that adopted communism. And the communism theory, it is given by Karl Marx. So this entire revolution, like Karl Marx told that the society contains of two set of people, haves and haves not. And haves not are the one who do not own the means of production. These are the workers and laborers. And at any point of time, workers and laborers will be exploited. So as a result, we need a society which is class-based, caste-based. So he said that the communism is the only set of government which will end the exploitation of the workers and laborers. Okay, now we'll see how did it came in Russia. So we'll cover it once again at the end. Okay, now coming to the course of events that triggered the Russian Revolution. So the first one was Bloody Sunday. Okay, now in 1905, there were famines and droughts in Russia. Already there was a scarcity of food grains. Prices were rising, and on the top of that, there were droughts and famines. And no action was taken by Tsar. So that made people helpless. Second thing, in spite of the famines and droughts, Tsar was busy in fighting with the other countries. Now, during this time, Tsar decided, let's attack on Japan. Now, Japan, if you see, it's a small island country of Asia. Okay, and at that time, Japan had a certain portion of China, and that region of China which Japan was controlling was Manchuria. And Manchuria is considered to be a mineral-rich area of China, which was under Japan. So during that time, the Manchuria area of China was under Japan. Even Korea, the entire Korea was under Japan. Okay, but if you see, the size of Japan was obviously not comparable to the size of Russia. So at that time, Tsar decided, okay, let's wage a war on Japan. And in 1904-05, in that war, that was the biggest humiliation or the biggest insult of Russia, that a small island country of Asia defeated a European giant. At that time, Russia was considered to be a European country. Today, we call it as Eurasia, part in Europe and part in Asia, major part in Asia. So it was the biggest insult of Russia that is such a small country could defeat the European giant. And that again triggered people's opposition against the Tsar. And this created an anti-Tsar climate in Russia. Okay, so battle against Japan further weakened the economic condition of Russia. Now, the workers, the common people, the intellectuals of Russia, they rose against a guidance of a person called as Father Gapon. Okay, so all these people, now they started that, yes, now we are going to march a revolt against the royal reign. And unfortunately, the soldiers of Tsar, they started attacking on the revolting people. And there was a great loss of human life in this particular incident. And this incident took place on Sunday, 1905, and as a result, this incident is called as Bloody Sunday. So this was again a trigger point that you are killing your own people. Like, first of all, you are doing nothing in order to remedify the situation. On the top of that, when we are raising our voice, you are killing our own people. So that was a trigger point, and this particular situation is called as the Bloody Sunday. The next important revolt was the workers' revolt at St. Petersburg. Okay, so let us try to understand this. So during the same time duration, that is in mid of October 1905, an important event that took place in Russia, and that was the entire Russia witnessed workers' strike. So workers leaders, they got together at St. Petersburg. Okay, and here now there was a kind of cohesion. Now everyone was coming together, and together they were leading an agitation against the Tsar. Now here they took a decision: we need to set up a central board, and that central board will be set up with a view to direct the future course of action of the workers. And this particular central board was called as St. Petersburg Soviet. Okay, so St. Petersburg Soviet was born. Now here you can see why workers are revolting, because we had seen that in the beginning. Karl Marx, in his Revolution, in his book, in his philosophy of communism, he had given a call that workers need to break the chains, break the shackles, and they need to bring about a revolution if they want to end their exploitation. And as a result, workers played a very important role in this particular event. Okay, so this is called as the workers' revolt at St. Petersburg, and a St. Petersburg Soviet was formed. Okay, so that is that Petersburg Soviet image that was formed. So you can see the people in a group now, they are agitating against the Tsar. Now Tsar was actually frightened. Okay, now why he was frightened? Because again, take the reference of French Revolution. So for all these countries, the proper reference was the French Revolution. The way they guillotined Louis XVI, the French emperor, the way he was killed by his own people, the way he was guillotined, that was a sign for the monarchy. Because if they execute the same thing in their respective countries, then yes, people can take even that measure. So as a result, now Tsar Nicholas II, he ensured his people by publishing a manifesto, which is called as a Manifesto of People. And in that manifesto, he ensured his people that yes, I will give you right to vote. We will conduct national elections, and special rights will be given to that National Legislative Council. National Legislative Council means the Parliament of Russia, which was called as Duma. Okay, so Russian Parliament is called as Duma. So he said that, okay, fine, I will try to pacify the situation. I'll give right to vote, will conduct national elections, and the special rights will be given to the Russian Parliament. Okay, so this is the Russian Duma of that time. So now, as promised by Tsar, now they started democratic experiments in Russia. Okay, so we can say that Tsar was giving a way to constitutional monarchy. Constitutional monarchy, that is the present example of Britain, where there is a parliament as well as there is a monarch. Okay, so here that experiment started in Russia. Not completely democracy, we can say that constitutional monarchy, king also existed, and they were making a way even for democracy. Okay, so in 1906, so immediately you can see after the event of that Bloody Sunday, immediately very next year, 1906, the first Duma was elected. But unfortunately, all the decisions taken by the first Duma, they were not acceptable to the Tsar, and as a result, the first Duma was dissolved by the Tsar. Once again, there were re-elections. Second Duma was formed, Again, there were differences within its members. Again, the Second Duma was dissolved. Once again, the Third Duma was formed. However, now the Third Duma, it became a puppet in the hands of the Tsar. Okay, so it was completely under the Tsar's control, and as a result, anything productive could not happen. And as a result, even that Duma, it just became a part of the paper, nothing effective it was doing. So in this way, the entire democratic experiment in Russia, it totally failed. And now people were convinced that, okay, now we need to change the Russian system. Okay, so ultimately now in January, and in between, that Rasputin factor played an important role. In between 1914, Russia joined World War I, and the way Russian soldiers died during that World War I. So this is the same period. World War I was coexisting over here, 1914 till 1918. World War I was happening in background. So in January and February 1917, ultimately, workers and soldiers, they came together and they started a full-fledged revolution against the Tsar. That was an anti-Tsar agitation. And now, with the increasing pressure on the Tsar was actually frightened, and he said that, okay, fine, I will abdicate the throne. And on 15th of March 1917, Tsar vacated the throne. Okay, so no longer now Tsar was functioning. Okay, so this is the first set of Russian revolution where monarchy comes to an end. Tsar is like out of picture. He himself vacates the throne. Now at this point, the moderate leaders, we had seen that in the Russian party, the Labour Party of Russia, there were two sets of entities. One were Mensheviks and one were Bolsheviks. Okay. Now the Bolshevik leader, Lenin, he was in exile in Switzerland. So at that time, the moderate leaders, they took the charge, and they were the ones who formed the the temporary government. And the moderate leaders, they were headed by Kerensky. And this government, they had representatives of landowners, capitalists, industrialists, business person. So you can see over here, the majority of the chunk of this government was also dominated by the upper class. That is, there were landowners, capitalists, industrialists, because Kerensky, he took the help of these people, monetary help and all, to stay in power. And in return, now these people, okay, let's see, capitalists and businessmen, in a way, they were earning money during World War I. How they were earning money? The businessmen, the industrialists, because they were producing weapons. And since they funded Kerensky's rise to power, since they supported Kerensky's government, so Kerensky was pressurized by them to continue World War I, because in a way, the capitalists and businessmen, they wanted to take the advantage of the war, because already there was inflation, there was price rise. So in a way, they wanted to take the advantage of the situation, and they wanted to make the money. And so they went on pressurizing Kerensky, and Kerensky continued World War I. And number of people, like approximately 6 lakh soldiers died, and it is said that approximately more than 5 to 6 lakh civilians died. So majority of the, throughout this World War I, the majority of the people who died were Russians, civilians, as well as the army people, okay, the military people. So now during this period, after the moderate leaders, all this was going on, okay, the Kerensky was the leader. Now here there is a twist and turn, okay. The twist and turn we had seen in World War I, okay. So Russia was the opponent of Germany, right? So Germany and Russia they were fighting on the Eastern Front, right? So during that time, Germany's king, Kaiser William II, okay, he decided, let us go and help Lenin. And where was Lenin? Lenin was in exile in Switzerland. So he said that let us facilitate the entry of Lenin in Russia. Okay, so we will help. So who was thinking this? Germany. So Germany was planning this. The German Kaiser William II, he was planning that somehow let us help Lenin to enter into Russia. And as soon as Lenin will return from exile, Lenin will enter into Russia. So definitely now Lenin will surely capture the power, and we will make an arrangement with Lenin that yes, since we are facilitating your entry into Russia, so once you enter into Russia, it is your duty to withdraw Russia from World War I, and so that it would help Germany to win World War I. Okay, so in this way, German Kaiser William II, he facilitated Lenin's entry into Russia. Lenin came in Russia. He seized the power. He seized the power from the, obviously it took a time. There was a big conflict between Lenin and the Menshevik leader Kerensky, and slowly and gradually he was able to grab the power. He suspended the Kerensky's government, and in this way now the power went to Bolsheviks. Bolsheviks, that is Lenin. So Lenin became, now the communist revolution started in Russia. So the phases are what? In the first phase, monarchy came to an end in Russia. We saw monarchy comes to an end, and then there is a rise of, first of all, monarchy in a way, king made a way for constitutional monarchy. Okay, they were trying to introduce democracy in Russia, but the democratic experiment failed in Russia. Then moderates took the power. Okay, they were also more or less functioning on the same democratic principles. Moderates took the power, but here also now they were thrown out, and Lenin comes into picture. And now Lenin takes the charge of Russia, and he introduces a new set of government which is based on communism. Okay, which is completely based on Marxist philosophy. So Lenin was under the influence of Marxism, and he was the one who made Russia a Marxist country. Okay. So what did he do? Okay, so first of all, yes, he believed in the progress of Russian people, but he wanted to destroy certain things. So first of all, he wanted to destroy the feudal setup of Russia. He wanted to end slavery in Russia, and he wanted to end the despotic rule of Tsar. Now for this, for introducing all these things, see, all these things cannot happen slowly and gradually. If you want to end all these things, then the only option is blood. Taking, like shooting people and killing people, that is the only option. So if you see, wherever communism ka kidhar bhi symbol hai, you will see red color. So the red color is the symbol of blood. Wherever communism has come, it has come with blood. So how it came with blood? Let us try to understand. Okay. Now Lenin was extremely clear in his thought that he did not want Tsar to exist in Russia. So he made a promise to Tsar and Tsarina that, okay, all right, we will make an arrangement for you guys to be taken to a safer place where you guys can live happily. Okay. And a promise was made to Tsar and Tsarina. And so in a room, Tsar was sitting, Tsarina was sitting, 4 daughters and the Prince Alexei were sitting. As soon as a promise was made that, yes, you be in a ready position, a vehicle will be coming and you will be taken to a safe destination where you can lead your future life. Immediately, Lenin goes out and his commandos come inside, and entire Romanov family was killed. Even the 4 daughters were killed. Even the Prince Alexei was killed. According to Lenin, monarchy is a cancer. ये ऐसा कैंसर है, ये ऐसे कैंसरस सेल्स है, कभी ना कभी ये पॉप अप होंगे. Okay, some or the other time, these people of the nobility, these people from the monarchy, okay, je jo family hai, they will try to take the help from here and there, and once again they might try to bring a monarchy in Russia. So he said that it is better that even not to leave their last person. Oh, Prince Alexei ko bhi mat chodo, usko bhi maar do. And in this way, the entire Romanov family was killed in this Russian Revolution. So that shows that communism comes with a bloodshed. Then the next is ending the feudalism. Now, jitne bhi landlords the, obviously, no one will. Now, Lenin came and said that from today onwards, your land is not your land. It's a land of everyone. Do you think you will agree to give your 28 or 50 acres of land? No, no one will agree to give. Why? I would give my land to someone else and it will be declared everyone's property. No. So here also, Lenin had to kill the landlords. So that was one thing. The big businessmen, abhi unko aake bola, aaj se ye company tumhari nahi. Okay, the big industrialists, the big capitalists, you are going and telling them, the businessmen, that from today onwards, your company is not your company. It is a company of the country. And you are like an ordinary employee. So for these many years, you were the boss of the company. And from tomorrow onwards, you have to work with the co-workers as a normal employee. Obviously, that was not tolerated by the businessmen, by the industrialists, and even they revolted. So obviously, the revolt was crushed by Lenin, and even they were shot. So wherever communism comes, it comes with bloodshed. So the way he ended feudalism, it came with a bloodshed. Slavery, land slavery, the bonded slavery, that he had to, obviously no one was ready to liberate their slaves. So even the landlords, they were killed, the businessmen, the industrialists, those who were not ready to give up their firms and all, everyone was meted with the same treatment: shoot, shoot, shoot. So as a result, he brought about a drastic revolution in Russia, and this is called as the communism. Okay, so termination of capitalism in business and industry. So private property was confiscated, big landlords, they were deprived of their land, and whatever land, it was equally distributed for, basically किसी को दिया नहीं था. It was like the land is the land of everyone. You have to come, you have to cultivate that land, you have to come, you have to work in the industries, rest will be taken care by the government. Your school, your education, all the basic amenities will be taken care by the government. Okay, so Lenin believed in this form of government, so he tried to introduce this setup in Russia. Okay, so he believed that government must have a domination of a working class, businesses, industries, everything were nationalized, and workers were given all the basic things: accommodation, same set of houses. As I told you, now my house depends upon my financial condition, but now government will make same set of houses, and houses will be allocated on the lottery basis. Okay, food, clothing, everything was given to the people instead of their, like, in return of their labor. Okay, so this was the communist government that Karl Marx, so Karl Marx was a German thinker, he gave this philosophy, and you can say the practical implementation of communism is Russia. So theory was given by Karl Marx, and its practical implementation was done by Russia, and the father of the Russian Revolution, communist revolution, when we talk about, he was Lenin. So he is considered to be the person who actually implemented this communism in Russia, and Russia became the first country that adopted communism. Okay, so what is the significance of Russian Revolution? So obviously it was the first revolution in the entire world which was inspired by the philosophy of Karl Marx, and as a result it gave a new direction altogether. A new system of government was like shown to the entire world. Okay, and as a result, like, even if we see India at that time, Indians were greatly inspired by the Russian Revolution. Nehru, Bose, everyone was talking about, even we want communism in India, we want socialism in India. And if you see the present day Indian economic system, it has many elements of communism. Okay, like if you see, Russia was the first country that introduced the system of planning. 5-year plans was the system of Russia, and the same system of planning was adopted by our first Prime Minister Nehru. So you guys are aware that there were 12 5-year plans in India. Modi scrapped the planning commission, but yes, now also we have plans, but these are the different set of plans: the short-term strategy of Niti Aayog, the long-term strategy of Niti Aayog. But immediately after independence, we incorporated this feature of Soviet. Okay, apart from that, we have government schools, we have government colleges, we have government hospitals. So see, both the provisions are there in India. So we have both the features. We have capitalist features also, and we have communist features also. Like those who are not able to afford government schools, government hospital, those who are not able to afford private schools, private hospitals. So for them, we have the government one. So this is the source of inspiration from Russia. Okay, so Russia was the first country that talked about welfare state, a state that looks after the welfare of each and every person in that society. Okay, so you can see that it brought about a fundamental change in Russia. And if you see, Russia emerged right after this revolution. Russia emerged as one of the strongest contenders for America. We had seen that after World War I, America was slowly rising, emerging as a new power. And after this Russian Revolution, Russia emerged slowly and gradually as a tough competitor for America. And completely after World War II, there was, we'll study about the Cold War. So Cold War was a war between Russia and America for their dominance. So you can see that because of communism, there was a rise of Russia, like in terms of economic field, in terms of scientific field. Okay, most important contribution is that there was an attempt to build a society that would be without religion, that would be without class, that would be without any caste. So basically, the attempt was to make a society which is free of exploitation. And the message of total freedom from all sorts of restrictions was given through this revolution. Okay, so basically a new concept of communism and that entered, like that was introduced to the world by this revolution. And now Russia started leading majority of the countries of the Eastern Hemisphere, and now a new Russia was born that is called as USSR. Okay, so Union of Soviet Socialist Republic of Russia was born, and that Russia became a leader of majority of the countries of the Eastern Hemisphere. And this USSR, that is Union of Soviet Socialist Republic of Russia, it had approximately 15 countries, like 15 countries. Today, obviously, the USSR broke in 1991, and that USSR got divided into 15 countries. But at that time, USSR, immediately after this revolution, included these many, like it became a big Soviet, it became a USSR, and all these countries came under the influence of Russia. Yes, we'll talk about these countries and all in World War II. So all these countries, like they came under the, like we had Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, all these countries, they came under the influence of Russia, and they all started adopting communism. And slowly and gradually, like Russia had a deep impact on world history. And you guys know that the next country which followed the Russian principle was China, right? So China also emerged to be a communist country, and the same thing was replicated in China, right? The communist, China became the communist country, seeking the example of Russia, right? So in this way, Russian Revolution played a very important role in setting the principles of equality, cooperation, and global fraternity. Fine, so is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Is the revolution clear? How? Your voice is breaking, someone is talking. Yeah. So exactly what happened in this revolution was that, first of all, there was a monarch. He gave a way to a constitutional monarchy. Certain experiments were done with respect to democracy, but even democracy failed. Then Mensheviks, the moderates, come into picture. So they tried to grab the power. They were basically Democrats. So they even started as we saw that the Kerensky government was funded by industrialists, they were funded by capitalists, and as a result, he was bound to continue fighting in World War I. But what was the repercussion? That Russia lost many of his soldiers and civilians, and that further made people angry against even this government, that is the Menshevik government. And all of a sudden, we saw that how Kaiser William II, the German king, how he plot a plan and how he made influence Lenin and how he facilitated Lenin's entry into Russia, and the way he came. He got the people's support. Yes, there were fights on the initial phase, but he got the people's support. And as soon as he got the chance, he grabbed the power, and then he established the first communist country in the world. Okay, its continuation. We'll see how it proceeds. Okay, so after him, then we have Stalin, and Stalin was the leader who led Russia in World War II. Okay, so that in continuation we'll be studying in World War II. Okay, so what question can come in mains? Okay, so first of all, what is the significance of Russian Revolution? Okay, because Russia was a country that propounded the theory of communism, and in a sense implemented it. So that can be a question, and it had a profound impact throughout the world. Even it had a great impact on India. Bose, Nehru, like when you will study the Indian freedom struggle, there were so many communists. Even in India, we have a communist party. Can anyone name me which is the state which has the communist party ruling it?
Kerala.
Yes, very true. Okay, so Kerala is the state where a communist party is ruling. Okay, so in this way, Russian Revolution, okay, it inspired many countries of the world. Second thing, a question usually comes on Lenin's policy. So what was Lenin's economic policy? So that you need to study. So what was his policy? That is, he wanted to basically he wanted to make everything to be public. Right? He wanted the resources should be owned by the state in the name of the common people. So Lenin's economic policy, this was a question in 2017. Okay, the new economic policy of Lenin. So that you should prepare from the exam perspective. Significance was again a question. Then there was one more question. He discussed that Russia had discussed the two phases of Russian revolutions. Okay, of Russian revolution, discuss the phases of Russian revolution. This was a question. So phases means you are going to talk about how the transition went on happening. From monarchy, the transition went to constitutional monarchy, then the transition to democracy, and then to communism. So this was again a previous year question. The phases of Russian revolution and the causes are important. Okay, so causes, social, political causes, Rasputin factor, all that causes are important. Okay, I'll be sharing this PPT. You can refer this PPT for this particular chapter. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubt? If you have any doubt, kindly message me, or you can ask it right now, or else whenever you will be studying, if you have any doubt, kindly message me. Okay.
मैम
the-
जो
हाँ, बोलो,
लियो टॉल्स्टॉय थे मैम, वो भी कम्युनिस्ट उसको मानते थे, मतलब कम्युनिस्ट उसको.
yes, Leo Tolstoy, yeah, and he was a famous Russian writer, right?
तो मैम जैसे गांधी ने टॉल्स्टॉय फार्म जैसे अपना उसका नाम रखा था,
yes.
तो was Gandhi also having influence towards communism?
Gandhi, see, Gandhi had, that is basically he was talking about socialism. Gandhi was also talking about socialism, but Gandhi was not completely in favor of communism. Gandhi did not see in communism when this guy was talking about Lenin, he was talking about completely industrializing Russia. He wanted to completely industrialize Russia, where Gandhi was talking about you give empowerment to village. He was talking about the cottage industry. So Gandhi was not completely, yeah, some things he agreed, welfare of the society, classless society. He agreed certain things of Russian revolution, but he was not completely in favor. He did not approve modern industrial development in India. He wanted that we should have like the power should be given to the cottage industries and village panchayats, and he wanted that type of rule. He wanted to empower villages, and he wanted the rural economy should boom. He wanted that India may villages ko pehle develop hona chahiye, and then later on maybe we can think, but he was mainly against this, and because of which differences also emerged between Gandhi and Bose and Nehru, because Bose and Nehru were the advocates of industrialization and Gandhi did not approve this. So यहाँ से उनके issues भी हो जाते हैं.
मैम मार्क्सिज्म और कम्युनिज्म कैसे डिफरेंट है? मार्क्सिज्म एंड कम्युनिज्म
सेम ही तो है. मार्क्सिज्म का फिलोसफी इज कम्युनिज्म. मार्क्सिज्म उसने ही तो प्रमोट किया है, कार्ल मार्क्स ने.
फिर ये स्प्लिट भी तो हो जाता है ना, जैसे सीपीआई हम देखते हो, सीपीआई एम बन जाती है.
वो तो पार्टीज है, वो तो इंडिया में पार्टीज है कि इनके आपस में नहीं बन रही, इसके लिए उन लोग बन गए. They have just given the names to their parties. See, the basic philosophy which was given by Karl Marx and the form which was introduced in Russia is called as communism. उसके अलावा इंडिया में भी कम्युनिज्म है, but हम उसे कम्युनिज्म नहीं बोलते. We call it as socialism. We have given it a different word because in communism, see, when we talk about communism, the sign of communism is blood. Everything that happens, मारा मारी करके, खून खराबा करके ही तुम्हें वो सब लेके आना है. तो इंडिया में भी हम फॉलो करते कम्युनिज्म, but we have given it a different word and we call it as socialism. तो हमारा जो वेरिएंट है, it is a socialist variant. So where we believe that कि in communism everything is government. India में we have given a liberty to private also and to government also. So India का जो model, we call it as a socialist model. Is it clear? So communist and Marxist is same only. Different countries, obviously no country will replicate the same model. So India ने भी कुछ अच्छे features लिए communism के, and we call it as democratic socialism or only socialism. Okay, so where we have incorporated the features of communism but not in the pure manner. But India में जो Naxalite revolution है, Naxalism का यही flag है ना, red. So Naxalite people, they believe in Marx philosophy and they believe in the rule of workers and laborers, and they want this where there should not be a democracy. So Naxalites, when we say, they are those who fight, they want this rule in India.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we know that there is an issue of Naxalism in India, right?